All right, let's cut to the chase here. So, when it comes down to it, there has been just an enormous amount of people falling through a right wing grift, or at the very least, an absolute hate mob towards Star Wars, both in Disney in regards to the Acolyte, along with, shall we say, quite a bit of an overreach when it comes to the reactions towards certain actors, towards Leslie Headland. But in general speaking, that's what I've noticed. And I'll be perfectly frank, I don't really like Disney at all. I don't get any enjoyment out of most of their media. In fact, the only really good media I've seen so far would have to be, as far as my opinion goes, Rogue One, Andor, Acolyte, and the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. That's it. Third season was kind of a crash for me, but that's just my personal opinion. I mean, I can see why other people would like season three. I just didn't. So, so you can see I'm not exactly a fan of anything. In fact, in fact, with me, I'm one of those fans who retroactively now doesn't like The Force Awakens because of what happens in The Last Jedi. Like, uh, if it had gone another way, I think I probably would have continued to like The Force Awakens, but maybe not like the sequel. But very much, I would like it a lot more than what came out in The Last Jedi. So, I mean, I'm not exactly a fucking fan, like I said, of Disney's entire bit. In fact, I think what's going on in the current MMO Republic, while it's crazy as all hell, still kind of works for Star Wars at the very least. I can see why people would still play this game. So, I mean, I played it for a while, um, and I just stopped playing because I got MMO fatigue. I wasn't having any more fun. I'll try to revisit at some point. Maybe I'll even do my own playthrough, but when it comes down to it, I really just don't have that much patience to deal with these kinds of things right now because currently I have to play other games and I have to work on my own stories. So yeah, I'm actually doing things myself. I'm doing two original stories and a fan fiction. Okay, um, but I'm not advertising that right now because I'm at least not trying not to. But I just want to let that know that I don't obsess over Star Wars because of other shit I want to do. Like instead of obsessed hating Disney Star Wars, you know what I do? I instead spend like the majority of my time going through books like this. Yeah. Um, this is called The Star Wars Archive by Paul Duncan, published by Tation, and it's for episodes 4 through 6. And literally has the entire production process and everything else that happened there that's like official towards the attitude of Star Wars, both during, before, and after. Everything. Okay? It's like one of the more comprehensive books. This and J.W.R. Rinsler's books, which I haven't read, by the way, but I do plan on doing so. Like, I'm not exactly, again, while I'm not a fan of Disney, I am a fan of Star Wars, which is the expanded universe and the production of the films. I actually do like learning about that stuff. I like listening to that stuff. I like watching that stuff. Behind the scenes stuff is like what I live for in a lot of ways. So, why exactly would I get bogged down hating on? If you've noticed throughout the entirety of the years, I don't have any Star Wars videos or any videos complaining about Star Wars. And I have posts that I made on the internet in forums and other places using this name, this moniker, whenever it is I can, both here on Discord and other places you can just find it. I made comments like that on that. I've made a ton on YouTube here and there, made my thoughts known on what it is I think about not only the trilogy, but also like Star Wars in general, what it is I like. I do other stuff other than just constantly bitch and moan about Star Wars. I'm sorry, but if you want to go ahead and talk about Star Wars, try not to make like a lot of your career off of bitching about what's coming at down the pipeline with Disney. Talk about stuff that you haven't talked about. Engage in media that you haven't engaged in that's pre-Disney. There's an entire library full. I guarantee you that if you started at the age of 21, 18, and continued on until you were 40, you'd still be collecting old legend stuff. You'd have like an entire room of a library full of it. Come on, there's a lot more to engage other than Disney stuff, and I get that people are upset. I get that people don't like what's been happening. Hell, I can lob quite a few complaints myself here, but I don't bog myself down in those complaints. Like, for example, one of the complaints I have is how they changed the crystals. And honestly, the kyber crystals, the way in which they ended up changing that lore there, both initially it was that, and this is what I liked initially, they were crystals that grew in force sensitive areas, in areas sensitive with the force, or areas that coalesce force energy, or force, like, the extra dimensional energy field, I guess you'd call it, which is like how it was like described there. And then you have the Sith, the red crystals primarily, and some other crystals, I guess, that will also the colors of these crystals, they were sometimes synthetic, and those were usually Sith ones. So, I mean, I like that because, again, the Jedi went with the Force crystals and that were in caves and were in areas strong with the Force, and they helped to grow those areas. They helped to grow those crystals. That's why they were considered sacred places, actually, to the Jedi. And the Sith, they just grow their crystals. They just grow their kyber crystals. They don't care. Like, so that's a very interesting contrast with the Sith that you get, other than bleeding the crystal. I mean, look it up on Wikipedia. It's a really dumb description. I'm not even going to bother. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that as a post. So, anyways, at the very least, be reasonable when you're actually voicing your opinion. Sorry, I couldn't resist myself on that.